As Donald Trump turns to China in an attempt to pressure Iran and prevent a wider regional escalation, questions are now being raised over whether Mojtaba Khamenei and Tehran's security establishment are instead preparing their most aggressive move yet around the Strait of Hormuz. With growing Chinese economic and diplomatic backing, Iran is now signaling that tighter control over the Strait of Hormuz could potentially generate revenues far exceeding its current oil earnings and reshape the balance of power in the Gulf. After reports and allegations surrounding Arab involvement in strikes linked to the Iran conflict surfaced, Tehran is now openly discussing stronger restrictions on military transit routes and possible moves to block or regulate U.S. weapons shipments passing through Hormuz. Even as Trump seeks Chinese cooperation on Iran during his Beijing visit, critics and analysts are questioning whether Xi Jinping may actually be allowing Tehran more strategic room to tighten its grip over the Strait of Hormuz behind the scenes. Rather than helping bring the conflict to an end, some geopolitical observers believe China could instead use the Iran crisis to deepen America's strategic difficulties and further expose what critics describe as Washington's weakening position in the region. Reports emerging on May 13 claim that Iran is now drawing up an extensive new strategy aimed at tightening its political, economic, and military control over the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical energy choke points. Iran's National Security and Foreign Policy Commission has reportedly finalized a broad new Hormuz framework that could significantly expand Tehran's authority and oversight across key sections of the strategically vital waterway. The proposed framework has been described as a plan for the comprehensive security and development of both the Strait of Hormuz and the wider Persian Gulf region, signaling ambitions that go far beyond conventional maritime defense. According to Iran's press TV, Tehran now intends to use what it describes as the untapped potential of Hormuz not only for military leverage, but also for power generation, industrial growth, and large-scale economic production projects. Notably, the announcement surrounding Iran's new Hormuz strategy came at the exact time Donald Trump was visiting China to hold high-level discussions on Iran, Taiwan, trade tensions, and several other major geopolitical flashpoints. Chairperson of National Security and Foreign Policy Parliamentary Commission, Ibrahim Azizi said, and I quote, "The Strait of Hormuz, which belongs to the Islamic Republic of Iran, is one of the world's 14 strategic choke points and an unparalleled geographic asset that has remained largely untapped. Iran now seeks to use this capacity for power generation, economic production, defense and security, and maritime services. Plan will ban entry of vessels from hostile countries and any military vessels under any pretext, reflecting unprecedented achievements for Iran." Iran announced on May 13 that it was prepared to block or restrict the transit of U.S. weapons shipments passing through the Strait of Hormuz as tensions with Washington continue to escalate across the region. According to Iran's press TV, Tehran declared that all military and strategic transit activity through the Strait of Hormuz would now require direct approval and oversight from the Iranian armed forces and security establishment. The announcement was formally delivered by Iran Army spokesman Brigadier General Mohammad Akraminia, who outlined Tehran's evolving plans to tighten operational control over the strategically vital maritime corridor. Iranian officials claimed that the proposed new Hormuz control system was not designed to disrupt civilian trade, but rather to ensure what Tehran described as safe passage and regulated maritime security in the Gulf region. The Iranian army also argued that stronger oversight and supervision of the Strait of Hormuz would reinforce Iran's sovereignty claims while simultaneously increasing the country's long-term strategic and economic revenues. Tehran further claimed that if fully implemented, expanded control mechanisms over the Strait of Hormuz could potentially generate revenues worth nearly twice the amount Iran currently earns from its oil exports alone. The IRGC Navy has claimed that it has greatly expanded how it defines the Strait of Hormuz, according to a report by TWZ. Under this new Iranian definition, the strategic zone of Hormuz is said to have expanded roughly tenfold. The IRGC stated that the area has grown from about 20 to 30 miles to more than 200 to 300 miles in scope, according to these reports. Tehran claimed the strait is no longer just a narrow passage around a few islands, but a much larger operational zone. Mohammad Akbarzadeh said, quote, "The strait is no longer viewed as a narrow stretch around a handful of islands but instead has been greatly enlarged in scope and military significance. In the past, the Strait of Hormuz was defined as a limited area around islands such as Hormuz and Hengam, but today this view has changed. The strait is now defined as a strategic zone stretching from the city of Jarsk in the east to Siri Island in the west." Unquote. According to the IRGC, this new definition was created in response to Trump's claim that Iran's navy has been destroyed. The announcement comes as Iran continues to restrict most shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. The White House has rejected Iran's Hormuz claims and said that Tehran has been crushed militarily. White House Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly said, quote, "During Operation Epic Fury, Iran was crushed militarily. Their ballistic missiles are destroyed, their production facilities are dismantled, their navy is sunk, and their proxies are weakened. Now, they are being strangled economically by Operation Economic Fury and losing $500 million per day thanks to the US military's successful blockade of Iranian ports. The Iranian regime knows full well their current reality is not sustainable, and President Trump holds all the cards as negotiators work to make a deal." Unquote. Trump has now threatened new airstrikes, or even ground action, if talks with Iran fail. An official linked to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps issued a fresh warning to both the United States and President Donald Trump, cautioning against any further escalation or military pressure in and around the Strait of Hormuz. Iran also threatened that the Persian Gulf could turn into what it described as a blue graveyard for American military forces if Washington chose to intensify naval operations or confrontation in the region. Tehran went even further by symbolically referring to the Strait of Hormuz as the Strait of the Honor of Islam, framing the strategic waterway not just as an economic asset, but as a matter of ideological and national pride. An IRGC-linked official additionally claimed that a process of smart blocking and enhanced monitoring operations was already underway across parts of the Gulf to tighten Iranian oversight over maritime activity. Iranian authorities also warned the United States against taking what they called stupid or provocative actions in the Strait region, suggesting that any miscalculation could trigger a much wider confrontation. The IRGC further claimed that American military bases across parts of the region had already been effectively leveled to the ground in terms of strategic vulnerability and exposure during recent tensions. Separately, an Iranian panel reportedly proposed a controversial reciprocal action framework that included a proposed reward of $58 million linked to retaliatory measures following recent regional developments. According to reports surrounding the proposal, Iran had also drafted a plan that allegedly named figures such as Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, and senior CENTCOM commanders in connection with the broader retaliation narrative. Iranian figures described the so-called reciprocal action proposal as a response to the reported killing of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei on February 28, framing it as part of a wider strategy of deterrence and retaliation. Tehran's proposal also reportedly included a suggested $58 million payment tied to what supporters of the initiative described as the carrying out of moral duty actions in response to the alleged assassination.